What's up, everybody? So today we're going to be talking about liquid versus dry and what is going to be the best option for you based on just some basic information. Let me just preface this by saying sometimes you need more than one tool in the toolbox.
What's up, everybody?
What is up, everybody? This is a pretty exciting day. It's my first video on the lawn. Like, the lawn is actually showing. This is crazy. So, I gotta just start this out by saying this. We're gonna be talking about today liquid fertilizer versus dry fertilizer or granular fertilizer, however you use that term. Doesn't really make a difference to me. Fertilizer. So I get this question a lot. Which is better, liquid or dry?
Which is better, granular or liquid? Granular, liquid.
And I need everybody to understand something so you can get my perspective and my point of view first and out of the way so that we can run through this on a very straight and even keel line. I am a liquid guy. I have been a liquid guy. I continue to be a liquid guy because I like it. I just don't have a need for the granular in my particular program the way that I put it out there. That doesn't mean there isn't any value. So I'm not going to get stuck on saying liquid is better than granular, because if I did that and I just said there's only one way, only one way, only one way, only one way, I would limit myself to having the full complement of what's available. It would be like trying to bake bread with only one ingredient. What you doing? Making banana bread. You want to help? Yeah, sure. What do you need help with? I need you to grab some stuff. Okay. What do you need? How about milk? Mm-hmm. Got it. And eggs? Eggs, sure. And bananas? Yep. What do you need? Like, why is it? No, it's all you need. You've had banana bread before. It's all milk. Have you tried? What? No, I've never made it. You need. This is all we need. I don't think that's right. No, that's not right. Let's go ahead and just set up some of the major differences, and we can start ruling things out quickly. Boom. I think this is where a lot of people get hung up. How are they going to put it out? For some people, pushing a spreader around on a lawn is too challenging for them. For other people, they might see that dragging a hose around and putting out a hose-in sprayer or even carrying a backpack is too complicated for them. So you just right off the bat, just take those two into account before you go out and buy anything because somebody said something is better. Just look at how you're actually going to put it out first and foremost. Second thing we're going to talk about here. There's a real important piece that can often get overlooked, and that's particle size and spread rate of material. So in the granular world, there are multiple sizes. So you have an agricultural or chip grade that's going to be the largest. Then you're going to have like the standard sort of run-of-the-mill lawn care size, and then get down into a greens grade side before we start getting into fines like ultra fines and things like that. You know, I definitely can't forget the other type of fertilizer that are really called like lawn bombs either. Ugh. I did a very basic look at the way you can see how these things spread. Use the same amount of prills and just put them onto this pan and onto a paper towel to kind of slow the drop spread, because if it just hits onto the pan itself, it goes everywhere. So this doesn't simulate what happens in grass. Grass blades are going to catch material and drop it down, but you can see how the spread of the material actually works. So starting out, we're just using a standard run-of-the-mill NPK material. This is a 1616, and you can see that the particles are all very different, and even they have a different sort of size. So the nitrogen is one size, the phosphorus is one size, the potassium is one size, and so it's all separate prills that are going to go down. Now when that drops out, it's going to spread out and sort of dissipate across a level area, and you have little pockets, right? Okay, so there's that particular one. Now, this is a greens grade material, so it's a much smaller prill size, and same amount, we've got the same amount going down, pouring that out. You can see how it spreads, and it actually seems like we get a little bit more coverage. Now, one of the biggest difference between this particular material in the greens grade size is this is a homogeneous prill. So what does that mean? That means that the NPK and whatever else they're going to have in it is in each and every prill rather than having individual sizes. That's how that works. This last thing that we're looking at here, this is water-soluble fertilizer mixed to the proper rate, same amount of fertilizer, but you have to have a certain amount of water to go down with it. So it's been diluted out. We're going to pour that down, and now look at how this spreads. We have a uniformity that goes off. Now again, look, this is on a paper towel on a pan, but it's the best visual that you can come up with without having to get down into the lawn, which we can't do right now, and see how these things are spreading and try to hunt and pick for every little piece of granular that's in there. It doesn't really make sense. But this is just to give you an idea that you have a certain amount of prills that will spread at a certain distance, then they will deposit and start to work down as water hits them to break down. So then now let's talk about how these materials actually break down and get through the soil. A granular product, so your granular nitrogen or anything else, okay, your NPKs that are going to break down with water, because water is always needed in order to break down a fertilizer. If you have a prill that is sitting on the surface like this, it lands here, water begins to push down on that. When it breaks down and goes through the soil, it has to move through particles in the soil, and it's going to sort of spread and dilute as it goes down through the system. So you would have a peak where all of your material is going to go down. So if you have one prill here in the center, have another prill over here, it's going to have another one over here, you are going to get some level of translocation of nutrient. It's just going to take a little while to go around. You know, it's kind of like that game Plinko on The Price is Right. So anyway, if you have a liquid is going to come across on an even plane, all like this. So even as you put more water into the system, it actually has to filter directly, because we have material that is dispersed perfectly even across the whole playing field. Now don't get me wrong, you can overlap and put heavy applications down of liquid just like you could do with a granular fertilizer, so there could be pockets where you get more material down, but you still get even dispersion. There's also a big difference in the types of liquid that we're talking about. Now you can create your own sort of liquid fertilizer by taking soluble fertilizers and materials, putting it in water, mixing it up, using a whip, whatever you got. But what that is actually a suspension. So all you're doing is having a bunch of different particles floating around in water. Sinkers and floaters. Nobody really likes floaties. So this is different from a solution. A solution is where everything has made itself into a whole and contained unit. And we can do that in the fertilizer manufacturing side with liquids, where we get everything functioning as one cohesive blend inside of a liquid to create a full liquid solution. So that material is then mixed with water, diluted, and then sprayed out. Okay, so now the thing is, like, people take a look at this and say, well, liquid fertilizers, you're just shipping water, or you're doing this, or doing that, you know, and that's not entirely true. A lot of this is going to come down to how much material, how many pounds of material are inside that container. So let's do something really simple. Let's just say that we have a 10-pound bag of granular fertilizer, 10-pound bag, and just for math's sake, we're going to make it really easy, and we're going to call that particular material a 20-20-20. Okay, and really we're just going to focus on there's 20% of each active in this. Okay, so inside of that we've got 2 pounds of each active ingredient in P and K. 2 pounds inside of 10 pounds because it's 20%, 20%, 20%. Right? Now let's say we have a liquid over here, and this liquid is also 10 pounds. Now that could be in a gallon. Okay, maybe it's slightly less than a gallon, maybe it's more than a gallon. The total volume of that material doesn't matter, it's the weight. Okay, so let's say we've got 10 pounds of liquid here, and it's going to be on every label. That could be a 20-20-20 also. So we have a 20-20-20 liquid right here, right? That also has 2 pounds, 2 pounds, 2 pounds, just the same as that other bag. So now it's just how is that material going out? So one, we're going to take 10 pounds and we're going to drop it into a spreader and we're going to spread that across the grass, and it's going to have this dispersion that goes out, and that's that. The other, we're going to take and put in a hose-in sprayer or a backpack, dilute it with more water, and then get a more uniform coverage of that same exact amount of pounds down onto the ground. So there's typically a part where people will say, look, liquid fertilizers work better than granulars, or they're more efficient than granulars. And while maybe there's some pieces of that we can kind of get to, they still both have a role, and we have to look at it like this. There's a precision that can happen with a liquid that doesn't happen with a granular, where you're able to really cut in your edges. You're able to keep material where you're actually applying it and get in these nice, beautiful grids where you're not flinging any material out and about and onto sidewalks and spilling things and having those types of issues. So then there's different technologies that can go into some of these items as well, and we can look at it from a slow release standpoint. So many of the slow release kinds of material that are in the granular market are going to be polymer coated, sulfur coated, sulfur and polymer coated, and maybe some formaldehyde urea out there, something like that, which is going to slow things down as it gets applied to the ground. Now on the liquid side, there are different things. There are urease inhibitors, there are certain oils that will slow down releases, and there are other carbon materials that can be put in to combine with the nitrogen to slow down its release. And it works pretty simple. You know, obviously I'm a big fan of putting carbon material into liquid fertilizers because it stabilizes nitrogen. And what you have is this beautiful web of carbon that kind of goes around like this. We don't get to see this, so you can enjoy this visual. And then you have all the nitrogen that's inside there as well, and those two will kind of work together to form the captured, not necessarily a bond as it were, but sort of a loose one to hold that nitrogen in place a little bit longer. So one thing that people say is you don't have to put as much liquid out as you do with a granular, and in some cases that's true. However, at the end of the day, everybody who's just doing basic lawn care is calculating pounds on the ground, so we can kind of throw that one out. However, if you just think about it for a second from a rational standpoint, if you're getting better coverage across the ground itself, you may not need as much because you're getting a more effective plane over the plant and on a full coverage of the soil. But also that might allow you to come back and do subsequent applications again at lower rate because you have this new flexibility. That's really all I had for you guys today. I just wanted to share this with you, run through some of these things that maybe you don't consider on a regular basis, and hey, I'm just happy to be out on the lawn. So thanks for watching. I'll talk to you guys real soon. See ya. Okay, so I do just want to say one thing. It's March 2020. There's a lot of things going on in the world right now. A lot of uncertainty, a lot of change. Like many people, myself included, your kids are home from school. You may not be able to go into work. You're at home trying to figure things out. This is a time right now to just be in your home and be with your kids and be with your family. And it may not be something that we ever see again in our lifetimes. So I want to just say thank you for those of you that are just tuned in and watching and learning. And I'm hoping to provide some lightness and some enjoyment to some of this heaviness. That's all I'm going to say about it. Which is better, granular or liquid? Granular is better, liquid is granular.